Hello and welcome to the program Hot Button one more time. Many young people have delved into relationships without actually paying attention to one thing that a lot of people have considered very, very important ingredient to serving the purpose of any truthful relationship, which is genotype. And young people have carried one another along, and then they got to that point of crossing to the line of marriage, and genotype stands in the way. Today, we want to look at the importance of these from the parent's perspective and how it affects a relationship with young people. My name is Johnny, and I have with me on the program
Theodore Dixon
and
Chioma Ikechebento.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Now, this topic, every time I look at it, it touches me.
Okay.
Because I never knew it was that important until I met someone who says, please, do you have any friend, a girl who is AA, so I can marry? And I'm like, hey, what's going on? I said, I'm AS. I can't marry someone who's AS. And I never knew that was so important.
Genotype is something that should be used to determine compatibility in relationships, especially relationships that are leading to marriage and wanting to have children.
The goal of our marriage, our relationship is not to have children. They can settle down without being bothered about what genotype somebody is carrying.
When you ask me my genotype, what are you thinking? Do you want to get married to? Calm down, you're not there.
Can I actually marry this person?
Exactly.
It means if we don't have compatible genotype, we shouldn't date. So now, why would you as a parent be bothered if your child is dating someone and you do not know about the person's genotype?
Genotype is very important. Of course, in a broad sense, it refers to the genetic makeup of an organism, which in other words describes an organism's set of genes.
Okay.
And this is important in the human, physiology and anatomy.
Okay.
There are things you need to check before you can say yes in marriage. Number one is genotype. Number two, resource factor. Number three, temperament compatibility.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can talk about your spiritual relationship.
Okay.
It's important because, just like you mentioned, there are levels of compatibilities and incompatibilities when you talk about genotype, just as it is with the other ones I have mentioned. And if you take it for granted, that could wreck a generation. That could wreck a generation. So it's important that we educate our children even before they, begin to look at each other, begin to get attracted to the opposite sex. Hey, this is you. Okay, this is what you're supposed to do. And these are areas that are incompatible, and you have to be careful because nobody wants to bring into this world children that you watch suffer because of whatever you call love.
Okay. All right, let's hear from you, madam. Why would that be so important to you?
It's very important to me as a parent because it wouldn't be fair to bring in children into the world that will be in perpetual pain, continuous pain and misery. It definitely is going to cause not just pain for the child, but also pain for the parent and the loved ones around them.
Okay.
It has a lot of implications because emotionally you're going to be affected, spiritually, health-wise, even economically. It's going to affect the whole family and the situation. So one needs to be very careful in making that choice in marriage, especially on genotype. Yeah.
Okay. Now, having said how important this particular thing is, at what stage would you as a parent want to know the genotype of your child's partner? a child who's in relationship with a boy or a girl, at what stage should you as a parent want to know the genotype of the person your child is with?
Okay, it's just as important as asking at what stage should you know the genotype of your children. And I'm saying the answer is as early as it should be known, once it is stable medically. So my children know their genotypes, all of them, because I took it as a responsibility to do that for them, their rhesus factor. Everybody knows that. Now, the moment your child says, this is my friend, okay, I'm talking with this person, or as an elderly person who has a 45-degree, point of contact, you notice that your child is getting close to this person and you try to find out. You remind your child of this checklist. You don't need to talk to the girl first, okay, because that may be a little embarrassing. Remind your child of the checklist and find out from your child, have you tried to find out what this is? But if it is a situation where you already are involved, because there are families, depending on how families have set up themselves, there are families where children have to do this thing at the back door, because if dad hears about it, mom hears about it, there will be war. But there are families where, mom, meet my friend, dad, meet my friend. So they are safe. They feel that you're not going to fight. So in that case, you can get talking and then you find out. But I think it will be very embarrassing to ask the lady or the guy, what's your genotype? You need to let your child do that assignment and get back to you, so that you don't harass the other person emotionally.
From what I gathered
from the very beginning,
from the earliest stage,
the earliest stage, you notice that there is something getting serious about, with these two people. It is fair because, and you ask me why. You see, emotions.
We will come to that why, because I must ask you why it should be from the earliest stage.
That's all right.
Let me hear from you, madam. At what stage would you step in to say, hey, I want to know the genotype of this particular person you have been with all this while?
Okay. I would say that at the very point of dating, before they get to the level or stage of courtship.
Okay.
Because once, of course, just like Theodore had said, my kids too, and like so many kids, even in school, they are taught to know their genotype.
Okay.
So they get to know their genotype and they know it already.
Okay.
So if that child happens to be an AS, that child will have that sensitivity to be very careful from the beginning. So you put an eye, you definitely know who is close to your child.
Okay.
So when she begins to behave the way, young people behave, you tell her, just like he said, please don't forget to ask. So it's your child's duty to actually ask and find out what's the opposite person's genotype.
Okay. From the earliest stage?
Yes. From the stage of dating.
That you perceive that they're about to date. This thing happens that's why I'm going to come to that why. Because sometimes we could just be close to somebody. We haven't started dating.
Yeah.
We're relating. But parents sometimes suspect too quick. Most times they're right anyways. Like, you're always with this person. You're always talking on phone. But within ourselves, we know we have not started dating. So, I want to ask, why would it be from the earliest stage?
Songs of Solomon chapter 8 verse 4 says, daughters of Jerusalem, do not awaken love until it is time. Because love is as strong as death.
Wow.
You see, love carries with it a lot of emotions. If you do not deal with it at the very beginning and these people get hooked up emotionally, you may have a bigger fight. Because I keep saying that, you see, when people fall in love, they don't hear anything anymore. So it's good that you have an eye. Of course, parenting follows through different stages of life. The kind of job you do when your kids are very small is a different kind of job when you do when they get into adolescence. But when they leave that stage and now you think they are developing independence, it's good to let them know that these are the challenges, these are the duties, responsibilities that go with this stage that you are in life.
Okay.
So it's good for them to know, for you to point it out before they go too far. Because when they go too far, you spend so much more energy, trying to help them get out of it. Because in Africa, we have not reached that level of, having a mental dating that is not emotionally involved.
Okay.
Because dating is supposed to be non-emotional.
Yes.
But we don't know that, because the television shows us that somebody meets somebody the first time, they are even on bed, they are romancing, they are cuddling each other, and then they go to bed and they are sleeping, and they say they are dating. You see, so we have a very bad mindset. Of course, the world gets secular every day.
Okay.
Dating, in the real sense of it, is supposed to be a time of window shopping. Knowing me, knowing
exactly.
you. Knowing me, knowing you. No strings attached, no commitment. Okay, so you are able to reason very well, do your checking properly, but that's not what you get. And because we are in a society where the wrong side always shouts louder, it's good for you to point out to your kids that, hey, before you go too far, check this and check this, so you don't enter into trouble.
Okay. Now, madam, in a situation where your child, maybe you have tried to make him or her find out the partner's genotype, and then he's like, there's no point, he's not telling you anything. Would you take an extra step to talk to the partner? And if you would, how would you do that?
Well, each one of us have our responsibilities and our duties. And I feel as a parent that I'm not supposed to interfere at certain points in relationships.
Okay.
So having brought up my child in a godly way and to make a wise choice, I have that high expectation that that child should be able to make inquiries as at when due. And when I ask, and that child seems not to be coming up with anything serious, I will begin to suspect foul play.
Okay.
So, and if that child is AS and I'm asking you, what's your partner's genotype? And you seem not to be straight with me, I'll remind you of the consequences.
Okay.
And lay everything bare on the table so that you can see clearly, in case you're not, what you're going to face in future. So if I do that, I will insist that the child should still go ahead to find out the genotype of her partner.
Okay.
Or her to-be partner.
To-be partner. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in a situation where he still doesn't do it, because I want to know if you would summon courage one day to, I need to speak with your partner.
Oh, why not?
Okay.
Because, of course, my kids bring their friends home.
Okay.
So, if that person is, of course, part of the family, like the person should be and would be, I will go ahead, maybe jokingly, and I'll say, I hope you guys know your genotypes.
Okay.
What's yours? And I'll ask her, you know your genotype, right? She's AS. And you? What are you? Are you AS too?
And that doesn't breed any tension at all?
No.
Great.
So you need to ask it in a fun way.
Okay.
So that the person does not feel hot.
Okay.
So that's the
because
best
it's
approach.
quite sensitive, actually.
Yes,
all right,
it
so
is.
let me hear from you, Pastor.
Yeah.
She
She just made a point that by the time your child refuses to find out and give a report, it's quite suspicious. So I think that first and foremost, I need to work on my child, because it means that there is something fishing that he or she doesn't want to communicate, and that could be very, very, injurious.
Okay.
So the thing to do is to take a long walk with your child, find a time where it will be just two of you, and have a long talk. That I have discovered makes a lot of difference.
Okay.
Yeah, get into activity with your child unsuspecting, and by the time you know that you have reached a high point, throw it in.
Okay.
You get your result. Because I think that if I don't get my child to do that assignment, then it's not fine. Something is wrong. And if we don't fix it, it could lead into a lot of because that is a kind of withdrawal syndrome.
Okay.
That is not very, very good, in relationships.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want you to take responsibility. It's not something I cannot do, but why are you not doing it?
Okay.
And you are still in that relationship. So I think the child should do. But if he or she does not do it, then it becomes something that one will do not willingly.
Okay.
For me,
Not willingly.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not a job I want to do because
Okay.
For me, that child has failed me.
Yeah.
For me, that my child has failed me.
Okay.
And I wouldn't do it willingly if I have to do it.
So there is no point at all where you may have to do it.
Yeah, I may have to do it, but I am going to do it very unwillingly and disappointedly.
Okay. Let's know, apart from the approach that she said she would use, would you rather use the same approach or you will have another special approach?
No, that's the way, because you also need to, the fact that your son is not, or your child is not talking to you, means that there is something. There is something. So already you should know that there is something, and so you be careful how to deal with it, because the other person may feel bad. Your child may not want to expose the other person, or because there is something, or your child may be the one who is AS, and now is having some soft spot for another person who is AS, and he doesn't know what to talk about, or he doesn't know what to talk about it. You can come to help, and that's why I said you can take a long walk, talk heart to heart with your child, and find out what exactly is the problem. Why did you have to drop the ball? What is wrong with you? And then you talk it over. I'm sure that when that is done, frankly, that child will open up.
Okay. And I also believe that parents maybe sometimes could also try to demystify the fact that AS is not a bad thing.
It's not a death sentence.
No,
Neither is SS, because these days science has gone to the level where these things are actually being managed. There are people that are living, even to become grandparents and all that, and then they're doing fine. It's not like a death sentence, but we're just trying to say, if you do the right thing, you may not have to put someone else in crisis, because the crises are quite, tough to handle, especially for those that are SS.
Yeah, and the possibility for that SS is when you have an AS wanting to get married to an AS. There are a lot of things we can talk about.
So it has to be avoided.
Yes.
Yeah, it has to be avoided. I have had cases where somebody said we prayed about it and then the thing corrected. I don't know. I don't want to argue with people when they talk about spiritual experience.
Exactly.
But the thing is that I have a pediatric doctor friend, and if he tells you the experiences that parents go through, there are people who knew their genotypes. I know they are not compatible, but they went ahead and got married. I mean, the doctor shared the excruciating, painful experience that these people go through, and eventually, whatever they called love initially evaporated. Yeah, because
of the whole.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
because you see the child is suffering. So who stays with the child? Should it just be me always, or you? So who carry this liability? Because eventually they give birth to a liability.
It becomes a liability.
The child becomes a liability.
Okay.
And then you see the child suffering, dying. You can't change the situation. You can't kill the child. And then all your hard-earned resources goes into
In and out
of find a way to manage crisis. It can get tiring. And then you want to have another child. You are saying, my God, what are we going to do? Or in a case where you have had 1, 2, 3, and probably 2 go down with SS. So, like Choma said earlier, it drains you emotionally, it drains you financially, it drains you psychologically. I mean, you can get mad. People have gone into depression. People have become suicide prone because of the outcome of their insensitivity or what I'll call ignorance. In going ahead to get married, even when you know that this thing is not going to work.
And that is one very important message that every young person should have at the back of their mind before getting into a relationship. Now, having said that, would you let your child date someone? As Christians, we are people of faith, and we believe God can do anything. Especially if we pray so well about it, would you let your child date someone with incompatible genotype?
I wouldn't want to, and will not want to.
Okay.
I would still try to let the child know.
Okay.
Because the consequences, just like we're talking about, is huge.
Okay.
you insist, and if the child still insists, you now need to put everything on the table, because just like he was saying, there are ways actually to, if one is already a sickle cell
carrier or something.
Yes, or of course we have different genotypes, the AA, the AS. One has a C. Then what people do now, because when they insist on going ahead to get married, is that they should have in mind that they have a 25% chance of having a sickle cell child if you are AS and AS.
AS. And 25% is huge.
Yes, 25% is huge. For every child, you have 25% tendency of having a sickle cell child. So for that reason, you now have to be careful, because of course you won't know where the child is going to fall in, if it's the first, the second, the third, or the fourth.
Yes.
So you just have to be careful. So at times when people insist and know the consequences, that okay, probably we might just decide to adopt a child or adopt children because our love is so strong.
Okay.
Some people decide to do that. They decide to adopt children. Some even decide to do what we call an in utero test.
Okay.
To check at the early stage, maybe during 14 weeks, if the child in utero is sickle cell or SC.
Okay.
So they now will have to bear the consequences and take the decision on what to do.
Okay.
While now we also have what we call the bone marrow transplants.
Okay.
Which has proved to be quite successful.
Okay.
So they do bone marrow transplants, and for the younger ones, they also do these stem cell transplants.
Okay.
So, but then you can't be very sure, because you would have gone through some pains getting to this stage.
And it's not cheap.
And none of them is cheap.
And
economically is draining.
I'm asking why.
So why would you have to go through all of this? Because definitely you discover that the level of love in which you started will begin to diminish.
Okay.
And if you're not careful, in fact, literature has shown that a lot of families, marriages has severed due to cases like this. So then why cause the pain? Both for the child. So you need to look ahead and let the child know and insist that you must make the right choice.
And the choice you're making is not, you're not making it for your parents. You're making it for yourself.
yourself, definitely.
Okay, so Pastor, let's hear from you. This child has faith. He can pray. She can pray to change this situation. So why would you not let your child date someone with incompatible genotype?
We are talking about gene, my brother.
Okay.
We're talking about gene. What are you praying about? You know, the Ethiopia cannot change its skin. The point is that God will not come down to do what humanity will do. God has given, we are created in the image of God, and part of that creation is that we are mentally fit. God has given us ability to reason.
Okay.
Okay, so when you have a genotype that is not compatible, look at, imagine what all that Choma has said. All of this takes so much money, so much energy, so much emotions, and not all succeeds. You know, some fail along the line. So why do you, marriage is already complex. Why do you further complicate it? You know, and then sometimes the thing we call love. I have had experience as a marriage counselor. I've had experiences where, you know, a prospective couple are both AS, and then I cancelled against that marriage. Okay, I cancelled against the marriage. I said, look, you don't have to be stupid. I had to call a doctor and say, doctor, this is my situation. What is your advice? And then he gave me a roll down of the adverse implications and said, look, pastor, tell them that my head is full with troubles of parents and relationships that are crashing down because 4, 5, 6 years into the marriage, they realize that the big trouble has arrived. And sometimes they are not able to cope. Again, because every day they are fighting over what to do with the children, who at every point, every travel, the child is embarrassing them with health condition. There is crisis. This crisis can come when you don't expect it, and then blame game. You did this, you did that. So I think that they shouldn't get married. Now, some said we will adopt. But I tell you, in such homes, there are series of abortions. In such homes where they say they will adopt, because they meet. So when the woman gets pregnant, they abort. So why do you open yourself to circumstances where you begin to offend God and begin to eliminate the life of children because they know that there is a possibility of an AS, so they abort the kids and then adopt. So why go through all of that when you can safely pray to God and ask him to lead you to somebody that both of you are compatible, and then you can marry and be happy. So I think I'm not going to support.
So all this stress is not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Because whatever route you decide to take, there is still a meeting point for the consequence.
Yeah,
Definitely.
there is.
Wow.
There is.
Definitely.
Okay, now, there are young people who didn't have all this information. They're already dating. They have gone quite far. What would you advise them do right now?
Well, I would say, I think E.G. White said it somewhere that even if you're right there at the altar and you see that there's something wrong, that you can't continue with the marriage, that it's better to say no and make a U-turn.
Before you get joined?
Yes.
Yeah, because a broken engagement is better than a broken marriage.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So it's better you break that engagement and give your children a future where they can be pleased with you. A lot of children these days regret why they are sickle cell kids.
And they blame their parents.
And they blame their parents because
Yeah.
the parents actually caused the pain. And it's true that most of our parents were quite ignorant of this fact,
Okay.
especially in Africa, because this is where the sickle cell issue is more domiciled
Okay.
in Africa. So they begin to blame their parents for what has happened. So we need to make that choice so that your kids will be grateful for the life they are living and not always blame you at the end.
And that choice is very, very important
Very,
compared
very
to whatever
important.
emotions you have put in that
Definitely.
relationship. Let's hear from the pastor.
Yeah, I would say that it is not love when it is unreasonable.
It is not love when it is unreasonable.
Yeah.
It is not love when it does not pay attention to consequences.
Yeah.
It is not love when it is only emotional. It is not love when it is just heading towards crisis and not doing anything about it. So I would say to young people, please, whatever you call love, pay attention to the consequences. It is not love when your life is in trouble and when the life, of the unborn child is already at risk before arrival. So I think they should retract and then make positive choices for their happiness and the happiness of the future generation.
Thank you so much for being a part of the program today.
Thank you.
So much knowledge keeps coming from our parents, and we are grateful for that. It is not love when you are stupidly in love, knowing that there are consequences ahead. It is best to make the right choice now that we have the time in our hands, so that we don't suffer a set of people in future and do not put ourselves in one-term trouble ahead of our lives that is supposed to be lived happily. It's on this note that we draw the curtains on the program today. Please join us again same time next week. God bless you.